You are listening to the Social Hotelier Show, a podcast that inspires hoteliers to create meaningful and memorable experiences for their customers in pursuit of their passion. We share our views and experiences relating to hospitality, technological trends, and also relating to humanity. Here is your host, Sam-Erik Ruttman.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Social Hotelier podcast with me, Sam-Erik Ruttman. I'm excited to announce that we are already in a full swing of booking guests for the 2024 episodes. Are you passionate of sharing your unique hospitality entrepreneur's journey? If so, just send me an email to sameriks@gmail.com. We're also accepting sponsorships. I can be reached at the same email. So if you just put into subject line either discovery call, if you'd like to speak about the opportunity to join me for a podcast, or if you're interested to sponsor, then put sponsorship in the subject line. Well, now on with today's episode. We have the creative director of Apogii, Mike Munt. Apogii help entrepreneurs in the nature-based accommodation sector to be ready to communicate their value to the potential guests and work with entrepreneurs in developing a clear brand identity that speaks to their ideal guests. In many ways, it is one of those unsung heroes that are in the background who makes the entrepreneur shine in front of their potential customers. So welcome, Mike. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure to meet you earlier in the year, and it was very kind of you to ask me on your show. So thank you.
Yes, we met for the first time in Montenegro at the Eco Resort Network event, and I was really happy to meet you and your wife at that time, and also to be part of that networking event. And I have been impressed about your work, what you have done for, particularly about the couple that we are going to talk about, and their journey in expanding their company, and also to give a clear voice to their offerings.
Okay.
So could you think, just for the audience to understand about some of your background, can you tell me a bit about your professional experience and about the journey of your Apogii company?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, it's the personal love of what I get to do. I've always loved visual creation, thinking about what things mean, when you look at them. But I've always been drawing right from a young age. Drawing pictures of whatever. So it scratches that itch for me. The business reason is that it's a vehicle from which to create, the brand's visual identity and any supporting works. It helps me to promote that work. And these days, it's been a long journey for me, but these days I primarily work with experiential accommodation enterprises, help shape what their brand looks like, what it can sound like. These days, as well as the visual side, I do a lot more of the thinking through with people, and a lot more on the overarching strategy behind what they want to do.
Are you a graphic designer by originally, or are you more on the narrative of brands? I mean, how you got started, just to understand your background a little bit.
Yeah, so I definitely did start in the graphic design area. I started many moons ago now, doing brand sort of logos for signage and things like that. Really, it was being asked to help people in this space that really set me off on this journey.
Yeah, that's interesting. You worked with Sarah and Jakob Dusek, who founded Under Canvas, and known for their all-inclusive glamping adventure packages and luxury glamping resorts. Can you help us to understand the kind of work you have done with, particularly for this company, and because they have, it's really one of those success stories. Of course, you have been very instrumental in one way to bring out their voice to the customer.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's been great to work with those guys. So Sarah and Rachel, my wife, they've known each other since university, and so it was 2009 that we were invited by the Duseks to spend 3 months over summer with them in Montana, and they said we're building a glamping lodge out on some land in Montana. Come and help us. And so we did. We just decided to go out with them, and so there we were, out in the middle of seemingly nowhere, and I was helping Jake with the physical build. I was moving things around, digging trenches, whatever he needed, and then as the project progressed, was built up, I then brought in my skill set and to help with like the brand identity design, and so this project was like the project before Under Canvas. It was like a precursor, and was helping them work out all manner of things, like level of interest, what to do, how to run it, that kind of thing. So they didn't know this at the time, but this project that we were working on was like the prototype before Under Canvas. It was called Sage Safaris, and after that, they found there was a lot of interest in the structures that they'd made. They'd created their own safari-inspired tents, and there was a lot of interest in having those, but in other locations. I think there were one of their roadblocks was the fact that it was access to where they'd set up, and so that was one of the learning things for them, is having the right place to set up in. So taking the tents that they had, they were asked to set them up for events in other places, and then they were able to see that there was interest in national park zones, their glamping style, and their tents, and that kind of formed the beginning of Under Canvas as we know it.
Wow. I mean, you really have been with Dusek from the beginning, and we're getting your hands dirty and and working on the original idea, and then which was refined to Under Canvas. Mm-hmm. That's what have you what has that experience given you, and what have you learned from that?
Oh golly, so much. I mean, it's been a life-changing experience with friends. That for us personally has been like one of the biggest things for us. It's been a journey which has led me through to running my own business, understanding this what for me was a new model of tourism, and seeing the growth of Under Canvas over the years has been amazing experience, and just to experience the sheer amount of possibilities, it's been great. And I think for me, like business-wise, it's been a real journey about learning what it looks like to build a large, consistent brand, by helping actually build one. There's no learning like doing, and helping them to actually do that has meant that I've come away with some things that I know can be repeated. So using what I know can work for Under Canvas, but shaping it around new brand ideas is what I can what I try and help people with now.
Very good. Yeah. It requires a clear vision to avoid scattering mixed messages that confuses the audience, and usually the entrepreneurs are very enthusiastic. They are passionate about what they do, but also has that downside that they may just in their enthusiasm scatter many kind of messages, and I think it needs someone to a little bit hold them back and also to direct them. So in one way, you are one way channeling a lot of that enthusiasm into a very clear message. Could you just share your insights now about the development of consistency and high impact brand communication? Because I think that clearly has been, if I understand correctly, has clearly been the impact that you have given, particularly this brand, in order to get the voice heard to the right people with the right clear message.
Yeah. I mean, you're right about the passion that people come at this with, which is something that I love and I'll never tire of, because it's, I help with ideas, I help shape ideas, but it's really what they come with that, they come with things for me to shape, which is what I love. So I see brands a bit like books. You've got the cover and you've got the story, but they both need to work together to capture people's imagination. You've got, if you will, the cover. You've got to get the visual tone correct, a cohesive visual language that there's a personality that you want to get across with a brand, and you use that through shape, color, the right kind of imagery, various design elements that you might have, all to create a recognizable personality. And then you've got what's in the book, the written communication. It's got to do the same. It's got to convey the values, the voice of the brand and the owners, creating a narrative that is hopefully inviting for the audience.
Yeah. Just to understand the length of this kind of a process, how long can it take ideally, or how long it took for this particular brand to develop where it is today?
Well, for Under Canvas was very much a long work in progress. So, I will say that there was, the early camps, they looked very different in terms of their brand and so on. It was still the same vision, but it was shaped differently, and many things that were learned by all of us over that time, transformed it. But these days, if I was doing it from scratch, I've been doing some work this year with some clients, and to go from zero, as in I have some ideas. Let's make something. It's probably around about 1.5 to 2 months. That's if they're having lots of things that they need help with in the expression work. But there's different ways of running it. So having done quite a bit of this work, I've got systems to help. It doesn't have to be me running every single piece of it either. So it could be that the initial steps are me asking a lot of questions to help shape their ideas, and then they may execute some of the visual or written elements themselves, and I can guide them in that. So having a suite now of ways of doing this, I can give them different modules to help with their project, but also different levels of my engagement. So many people will come from a place where they have time and ideas, but they don't have as much money yet, because they're having to pay, they're looking for investment, they're having to pay other people to help build things. So it may be a case of they come in at a lower tier at that time. If they want more of my involvement, it can be a higher tier. It's really depending on what their situation is at the time. Yeah.
But because I think the success for the brand depends quite a bit on your involvement initially to help them to shape the language and also the visual identity and so on. And that takes, I mean, from my experience, it takes quite a bit of discussions back and forth and so on to get it right. So that journey usually takes a little bit longer because it's not something that you can just Mike do this and then you put something together and Mike add a little bit more of that and then you do it. It's more involved. But what I'm interested in is that you talk about the system and you talk about modules. Can you just dig a little bit deeper into what that actually means? Because here our listeners in this podcast, there are people who are very curious about what Mike is up to and what he's doing. So it would help them to, if you can just unwrap a little bit about what actually it means, a module, and what does that system is all about.
Yeah, sorry, I should explain that a bit more. So we've got, an initial module would be like brand core ideas, I'll call it that. And that really starts with a discussion. You know, basically what's the dream? You know, what are you wanting to achieve? What is the benefit to your guests specifically? And what guests does that best suit? So your ideal guest. And we put all that together to create like the core brand ideas, and from there, it can lead to, well, how do we next tell that as a story? So I will then go through like mind mapping. Basically, I will go through and look at all the different points of these ideas, and then start trying to weave a thread through them. And what is the thread? What holds all of these things together as a unified whole, and can tell that as a story that will help the audience understand and be interested. So that could be, I guess it's like theming, brand theming. There was one this year where I knew the client already wanted a water-related theme. So they were also talking about a holistic healing experience for their guests. They were also talking about the level of rest and connection to nature that guests will experience. So really the theme became one of waves, and there was the idea of waves of rest, waves of rejuvenation and refreshing, and that was really the driver of the narrative. And then of course that led into the design for the logo and how we selected colours and all of that kind of thing.
Oh, so, yeah, that's very interesting, and thank you for clarifying that. I think it now paints the picture for the audience now also exactly how you think and how you work. So that's very good. Looking at what you do, is there a focus on the kind of brands and entrepreneurs that are creating these nature-driven experiences, or is it just how you have focused on, just to understand where is the direction that you're working and where you are at your best, if you will?
Yeah, well, I definitely have a love and affinity for the nature and based and outdoor space. I love the outdoors myself, so that helps. And I know and like a great deal of people in the space. And whilst, yes, I've done brands for various different enterprises over the years, but I did keep finding myself coming back to this space, and so I've really kind of honed in and tried to make things more applicable to the people here. It helps to know as I would say to a client, you know, it would help to know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
And I feel like I know a good deal about the people here. And I like it very much. You know, I would like to keep doing it. So, yeah.
Very good. As many of our listeners know, we love technology, and the only way to keep up with the new demands of travelers is to keep up with the latest and greatest from self-check-in, digital concierges, and keyless entries, and particularly during the pandemic period, the slow-moving hospitality industry was not very keen to initially to buy into those technologies. But what's interesting is that, of course, the area where you have been involved with are the glamping, for instance, and the nature-based experiences, and many of those don't really apply to that. But is there do you see that that the experience people are looking for are less human contact and they want to be on their own, or is there something that is just was initially that safety factor that people were looking for, or do you see any correlation to the kind of journeys or the kind of brands that you've been working with that they are thinking about those things? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there is definitely thoughts and a lot of discussion around this, as I'm sure you know. The way I see it at the moment is the choices that we have. So I'd say it's strategic human contact as opposed to more or less necessarily. It may well mean less in some cases, but I think it's strategic human contact. So there's many great technologies out there that will help people to. Well, you no longer have to rely on, you know, a team of people to do repetitive tasks. You know, it's a bit like, you know, at the airport check-in. You know, you don't necessarily need a line of desks, and every person is operating one terminal. You know, the terminals do it themselves, and they deal with the customers, and then you have a team of supervisors who are there to help anyone who is stuck or needs information and things like that. So I think that's probably a good model. So I mean, in terms of hospitality, I think that, you know, whatever helps the guest have a seamless experience. So it may be that you deal with you know, a concierge or a host, and any requests that you make, you know, they go through an automated system to be processed. But you're dealing with a human being.
Yes.
You know, you talk with them. You have you know, a relational discussion, because people are still going to be an important part of your brand, and this is where it crosses over into the story element. You know, because we can now make choices about how many people and what they're doing and where they are, you can create an experience where your people are part of that narrative, that experience that you want to give, and you know, the things which need to happen in hospitality are happening, but they could perhaps be more in the background. You know, some things are automated, some things still have to be done by people in some cases, but the guest doesn't have to be involved with as many steps as in the past. You know, you can just enjoy. You could maybe be invited to go on a walk as you arrive and see the area, you know, and everything else is taken care of.
Yeah, part of it, I think, I also that I see that sort of that pre-arrival communication and getting to know the concierge or healing concierge or whatever they would like to call those persons who is actually a person who knows how to ask the right question, who has done a little bit of a background check on on the person who's traveling. These days, it's quite easy to find out what people's interests are. All you have to do is look up their social media channels, what they're sharing. So if there's a certain thing that they are passionate about because they are sharing that experience, then it's obviously a obvious question to ask that would you be interested in if people like to sit by overlooking the valley and or listen to the birds singing. Oh, we have a very nice area where you can enjoy in the early morning the bird song. So is it something you like to do? We can help you to create this little tour for you.
Absolutely, yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. And yeah, that's so that's profiling is as you know is the word.
Yeah.
You can profile your guests. You can start with your best guest, your best guest guess. if you understand what I mean, you've got all the information that you know about your market and your ideal people. You can create a profile, but then you can take that and adjust it for when you encounter real people, and then you can use that to like as you say build like the story and experience for guests specifically.
Very good.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time, and I think it's a great way of, like, sorry to interrupt you, but give a nice surprise to guests. So if you understand them on a quite innate level, you don't necessarily need to ask them every single thing, and you can do things for them pre-prepared that they were maybe not expecting or maybe hadn't even asked for, but you have anticipated that they might desire.
That's true. I mean, that's where if anyone, the concierge has an instrumental role in creating a memorable experience for the arriving guests. There are the stories, I mean, in my previous episodes where we talked about these things where concierge at the resort, or I also had some of these experiences where they done a little bit of a background work, what the person likes, and then they surprise them by placing this. Maybe it was somebody likes papaya or pineapple or blueberries, if you will, and they have placed a bowl of fruit of their favorite fruit in the room on their arrival, and then with a small handwritten message. I mean, this gives something that people will remember. If they don't remember much else about their visit, probably this is the thing that they will think about when they think about the place. Yeah. So that's where it's a simple thing, but so many hotels don't make that extra effort to do that. And I think this is I'm repeating. I sound like a broken record, but I tend to repeat the same thing because I think it's so important, that initial part, and as you are mentioning also, that this is something that will make the world of a difference of creating that, what we call the memorable experiences. But let's talk about you. I think what I'm interested to know is about this is kind of a little bit tricky question, but what advice would you have given your younger self when you got started? I mean, you have gone through a lot, but if you start all over again and you would be the wiser, what would you have given your younger self advice to do a little bit something differently?
Well, hopefully I'd be a bit wiser. I don't know about that, but I would definitely say to that younger self probably to worry less. I think something that a lot of people could relate to, but I never really knew if branching out and running my own thing independently would work out. So obviously I was working alongside the Do-Six with Under Canvas, but that's only one thing, and I have to find other things to do. And so there's been plenty of stressful times over the years where I just didn't know if it would work out. You mentioned COVID earlier in our chat, and that for many people was a big world flip. Lots of things changed. We were affected because people just stopped operating. Clients either stopped or they just disappeared entirely. So those moments, it kind of makes you pause and wonder, should I be carrying on? But thankfully, just by waiting, there were other opportunities and other enterprises came along, some to capitalize on the changes post-COVID and all of those things. So I'd worry less, but also encourage myself to just stay in the game, because if you stay in long enough, then the opportunities do come again. So it's one of those things that can be really overlooked in business, is that just staying in the game.
Yeah.
It's not it's not quick, it's not very exciting, but I understand now that failing to give up is success itself.
Looking ahead, based on your experience and building the parts, what you do, into a whole, can you help us to understand about the impact you can make for brands that are struggling?
Yeah. As I've mentioned before, it's really about effective communication. So the steps that I mentioned earlier, it's really about doing a really deep dive on each of the things that we can say before a guest even arrives. So to create that expectation of the experience that you can give them. So that can that always starts with the conversation, of course. What is it that people are wanting to do? What can they do? Sorry. Sorry, Sam. I had it in mind. Kind of lost the thread there. To get to a workable brand that will communicate to their ideal customer, there's various things that we can do. That is the design work, obviously, but there's all the thinking and idea creating, you may remember I also spoke about levels of involvement that I can engage people with. Whilst the ideal is that I am involved with with each component to see it through to the end, you don't necessarily have to. It's that is the ideal, but with making a system for each of these things, they can be repeated, and sometimes it's a case of the client can run with a great deal of the workload, but I guide them, so I don't necessarily have to be digging through every single bit myself. It can be that they do a lot more of the work in detail, but I explain how and take them through each point, so that they can do it. Yeah, so I mean, I think really in terms of like the impact, it always I always find that the best stuff just comes out just through talking. Those initial conversations, I've got questions to direct the conversation, of course, but the initial conversations are so important to understand what the dream is, and I try and pull things out so that dream meets the customer's desires. It's people come to me with a great sort of lump of disparate ideas together. What can I do to help shape that into a whole? You know, one rounded thing, and that way you can, you know, throw it to your audience, and then they can play with it.
Very good. Yeah, I have just two more questions before we wrap up. And one question I always ask my guests: what trends do they see happening in the travel world that we should take note of? Any thoughts you have on that? Where do you see looking ahead? You're already doing some fantastic work with nature-based travel experiences, but what do you see is sort of what is the next big thing, if there is one, or is it an extension of what we already have?
It's definitely an evolution of what we have, I'd say. I definitely see there's a lot higher expectations by guests. I think that when people are booking, they're looking. I think people are bored by the old ways of doing things. You know, it used to be that they'll pick a location, and then they pick a hotel, and then think about all the things that they can do when they're in the area. I think now the expectation is that where they stay provides a lot more of the experiences that they're actually looking for. You know, the things that people are wanting, whether it be adventures or or a healing retreat or just a deep level of rest. I think that they're kind of expecting that where they stay provides an element of that, or at least a starting point for that. And so that is definitely something that I'm seeing in the industry. I think being able to explain clearly to people what you can offer beyond just somewhere to put your bags and coat is more important now. And alongside that, doing that in a way that you invite guests on a journey. You know, create your brand, create your story, but then you have to invite your guests into the story that you are making.
Very good. So lastly, if people are interested to find more about Apogii, how can they do so?
Yeah, you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I'm active on there. So that would be what would it be? LinkedIn.com/in/Mike Munt, all as one word. Email is also good. Mike@apogii.uk, apogii.uk, and my website is apogii.uk. It's the design is being redone, but the old version is still up and active for contact.
Good.
So yeah,
I have to ask you, what does Apogii mean?
So really, it's a misspelling of the word apogee, as in APOGEE, which means like the top point of a trajectory. So you go up, you reach the top. That's your apogee. So it's really just about giving people the top experience, using everything I can give to help people tell their best story. That's really what it's about.
Wonderful. Now, this episode is the first episode for 2024, and considering we are living in a very uncertain times, I have one more thing I like you to share. What message would you like to share to the world?
Wow. Well, Happy New Year. So as you say, it's very, very interesting times that we're in, and I think that there's always a question around these times. I think when we reflect, like where do we put our trust? Because we have to trust something, somewhere, or someone. And, you know, the easy thing is to trust that, yeah, tomorrow there will be equally bad news and, an equal amount of things to be overwhelmed about. Or we could choose to be joyful. And I don't mean blindly joyful, but there are ways of, creating a focus so that we can have joy in ourselves. And some people choose mindfulness and meditation, ways of focusing, and those are all great things. For myself, I choose to focus on Jesus, because for me he's the source of all good things, but also he's a person, and he understands our struggles. We've just celebrated Christmas, and where we celebrated his coming to earth, and he did that because he wanted to show that he understands what it is to live as a person. And so I think when we're really going through it, that's where I put my attention, I put my focus, because he's there and he's above it all anyway. And I've always found him to be trustworthy.
Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate your very great thoughts, and also about the wishes for everyone. I also like to, from my side, wish everyone a very happy New Year. And I simply, one of my friends who I talked to not too long ago, he gave me just advice: be good to people. I think that's all you should be. There's so much good there is, so just spread that the goodness and to everyone, and that good things will come out. So thank you very much again, Mike, for today's episode, and for your fantastic insight. And I look forward to speaking with you soon again.
Oh, thank you, Sam-Erik. It's been really good. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Social Hotelier Show. Make sure to visit our website, b8bhospitality.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes or Spotify, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us too. Be sure to tune in for our next episode.